Welcome, Bridge Builders, to another episode of the podcast. My name is Mitch. I am a former Latter-day Saint, formerly removed my records about 3 years ago now. And I've got Ashton and Juliet here in studio with me. I'll let them introduce themselves really quick.
I'm Juliet. I'm inactive.
I'm Ashton. I'm hyperactive.
So we got a spectrum of activity in the church here. And our whole goal for those who are new and joining us maybe for the first time is to build bridges in the LDS community between active members, former members, people in Utah who have no affiliation to the church, and so forth. So that's us. Today we're talking a little bit about some LGBTQ issues. Happy Pride. It's June 8th, 2026. And yeah, we'll be talking. This will be a little bit of a shorter episode. We'll record another one just after. But be sure to check us out on our social media programs. Instagram is where we're mainly the most active. And if you haven't subscribed, you should do so. Also, if you're able to financially donate to the podcast, we really appreciate it. There is a link in the description to do that through Buy Me a Coffee link. So thanks, guys. I'll turn it over to Juliet to get us started.
Awesome. So with it being Pride Month, I have been just noticing some of the rhetoric online back and forth about pride and love and hate and marriage and sin and God and all of these things that come together in the space of intersection of the church and sexual identity and sexual lifestyle. And I've been thinking a lot about like my own history, my own past with this, and some things about it that are like kind of uncomfortable that I wanted to talk about, because I feel like I maybe have like a little bit of understanding into this. Maybe that's not that like is super unique, but is one that I don't really talk about a lot. And it kind of centers around the Prop 8
Debacle.
law. Yeah, debacle that happened in California. And I've been talking to them. I'm going to talk to you guys, even though you guys already know.
Because you were living in California at the time.
Yeah, in 2008, Prop 8 happened. I had been a member of the church for about 4 years. Prop 8 was an initiative to, I think what it was attempting to do was add like a clause to the California Constitution that said that marriage was defined as between being a man and a woman, which obviously would prevent gay marriage from happening. When this happened in 2008, I was in college. I was getting ready to go on my mission. I put my mission papers in 2008, and I left for the MTC. I went into the MTC on New Year's Eve. And so I was deep into the church. I had grown up like not really knowing much about LGBTQ issues, but certainly never having been told that there was anything wrong with being gay. And like in high school, I had plenty of gay friends. I used to go to the Gay Straight Alliance meetings. Just was like totally fine with it, I guess. And I would say when I was in high school, like marriage wasn't gay marriage. I don't know if it was legal in any state at that point. It definitely wasn't legal on like the federal level, or like legislated on at the federal level. And so the idea of like gay marriage was just sort of like a little bit more off in the distance for me. But as far as like gay people and gay relationships, I was completely fine with it. And so when I joined the church, it was one of the things that I was like, like this, it was one of the things that didn't really feel intuitive to me. Mm-hmm. But there was a lot about the church that felt very intuitive to me. And so I kind of assumed that was going to trickle down eventually, right? That it was going to make sense at some point. And so Prop 8 happened. And we were advised by the church leadership at the highest level to get this piece of legislation to pass, which felt strange because the church doesn't usually deal with legislation so specifically, right? Like usually doesn't tell its members to vote this way or that way, or to donate money to this candidate or that candidate. There are arguments to be made about how the church is involved with politics, but it's usually not done like this.
It's usually behind the scenes, if anything.
Yeah, it's usually like not the way that this is handled. And I feel like there's usually not a teaching that like you need to be voting one way or another to be in good standing with the church. I don't feel like that has been the case in my experience, at least. And so when we were asked to support this, it felt uncomfy because it's not something that I intrinsically believed was wrong, that it was like wrong for gay people to be married. But here's the thing. I was about to leave on my mission. And I felt like this was like my Abrahamic test to do what God was asking of me, even though it was really uncomfortable and even though it wasn't intuitive. I felt like this was the way that I could put God's will above my will and really be humble and give it to God and say, I trust you. I trust you. I trust your leaders. I trust your church. I'll go where you want me to go. I'll do what you want me to do. Mm-hmm. And so I held signs on corners that said Prop 8. I knocked on people's doors to try to convince them to vote yes on Prop 8.
Did you donate money to any
I had no money.
PACs?
Yeah, I had no money. I didn't.
If you had money, do you think you would have donated
I was
it?
barely putting food into my own mouth. I was at the time, actually. I had moved, like, while this was happening, I left college and moved back in with my parents because I had like taken a leave of absence from school to go on my mission and was going to be leaving from my parents' home. And I asked my parents if I could put a Prop 8 sign in the yard because that was like free and then something that you could do. And they were like, Juliet, no, like, please be so for real. Like, no, you cannot. So my parents didn't let me. So good for them. But that's what I did. And I remember one time standing on a street corner. It was like near a school. It was like not on school properly, but it was like right across the street. It's like tons of people would see it right as they're like coming to get their kids. And I remember like this family walking by and this kid asking their dad, like, what are those people doing? And the dad said something to the effect of like, oh, they're just being like hateful and ignorant. And I didn't feel hateful and I didn't feel ignorant. And I had friends that were gay that I didn't hate. And I didn't hate gay people as a group. And I didn't hate any gay people as individuals either. And I just remember being, of course, like so resistant to that because nobody wants to be told that they're hateful or that they're ignorant, you know? And I had a friend that I had, like one of my gay friends from high school who like saw me, who became aware of me, like being in support of this and sent me a message on Facebook and was basically like, hey, this is like really hurtful that you're doing this. This is really confusing to me. Like I always felt like we were real friends, you know, whatever. And I kind of like rolled my eyes at it. And I was like, oh, this doesn't mean I hate you, you know, like I'm still your friend. I still love you.
It's just what God wants me to do.
This is just what God wants me to do. Yeah. And I think like looking back on it, what I realized is that I really didn't hate him. Like I do believe now that like what I was doing was wrong. And at the time I thought it was wrong too, but I thought that God thought it was right. And so I was like outsourcing to God, right? Like it felt intrinsically wrong to me what I was doing, but I thought like, surely God has a plan, you know? And, I think that a lot of times in our rhetoric, we talk about like people who have oppositions to the LGBT community or to gay marriage or gay rights or whatever. We talk about it as being hateful. And certainly like some people are hateful, but I think that a lot of times that isn't productive and it just doesn't land in any meaningful way to the people you're wanting to land it with or for it to land with. Because they aren't actually feeling hateful, you know, like their opposition to these things is not actually driven by a feeling of hate. I think it's more often driven by probably some ignorance, but also people wanting to stay in good with their community and really just like trying to do the right thing, right? And so like if someone is saying to me, oh, they're just being hateful, like that's not going to land with me if I don't like feel like I'm being hateful, because I don't think I was being hateful. But like what I've realized is that you can be doing something that is not hateful or not driven by hate, and it can still be very much the wrong thing to do.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then when Prop 8 was overturned, I remember feeling so relieved, because I felt like, okay, like I did my part. I helped get this thing to pass. I did what God wanted me to do. But it's not going to be the law, which is good, because it really shouldn't be the law, because it's not actually what is right. But I had been able to play the part of the person that was doing the right thing, which is
interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, just the incongruity between your integrity and trying to align with what you believe God's will is for you, and that they don't really match up.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's complicated.
Yeah. And
internally.
I feel like embarrassed. I don't know if I feel guilty at this point or like ashamed at this point, but I do feel a little embarrassed, not even so much of the fact that I took that position, or at least acted like I took that position, as I am that I so plainly like went against what I actually believed to be right. Yeah. If that makes sense. Because I feel like that makes me sort of like morally like untrustworthy. You know, like I feel like I really showed like a lack of integrity by doing that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I felt kind of similar around the same time. I was a little bit younger, so I was 15 or so when Prop 8 was going on. It was in another state, really wasn't paying too much attention to it. But I remember like seeing news clips and so forth, and someone in my family, like in one of these news clips. This could have been even later though, actually, now that I think about it. But it showed like two men kissing at their wedding, and this person next to me said, "Ew," you know? And so just kind of like this implicit teaching around me that this is wrong, this is bad, this is inhumane, like, anyway, whatever rhetoric you can think of. But also in high school, I started to align myself with more libertarian, like, politics, which is kind of like live and let people do what they, you know, see as right. So politically, I kind of felt like, I don't really see an issue with like people getting married, but the church says that they shouldn't. So where do I do with that kind of thing? But then also, me and my friends would just use slurs in our normal everyday language, talking to each other, and none of my adults in my sphere ever said not to. Whereas if I would have said a swear word, like a normal swear word, like the F word, whatever, I'm sure I would have been talked to about that, you know? So
Yeah.
it was very much allowed. And anyway, so I have a lot of regrets from that time period as well. Like, I didn't feel like I was hateful. In some ways I felt like I was an ally, but also like looking back, I'm like, I wasn't really that much of an ally, you know? I just kind of said like, yeah, if people want to get married, I don't really see an issue with it. But
Yeah.
Anyway, I feel like I've come a long way since. One other thing, this was, I think, a little bit later, probably in 2014 or so, when gay marriage was legalized for the entire United States. I just had this like epiphany one time, and I told a family member, I said, I don't really understand like what it feels like to feel the opposite gender of what I was born, or opposite sex of what I was born. That just doesn't make sense to me, and like I can't really like relate to that. But then I said, like, I wonder if other people, I believe that Joseph Smith saw God. I wonder if other people like feel that same way. They're like, I can't relate to that at all. And so I was just like, so who am I to really say like you're wrong, kind of thing, if like someone was to say that to me too. And so I was just like,
Yeah.
I told a family member that, and they're like, what are you talking about? Like, that's not the same. I'm like, it feels kind of the same in a way. So
Yeah.
I don't know. It was a slow evolution for me, for sure, to become more accepting and more of an ally. So
Yeah. I think what you're saying about like maybe there wasn't like a ton of like really, really explicit hate, but it was kind of like in the ether that like
it's baked in.
Yeah, that was like, oh, if you say like the FU word, then someone would have corrected you. But if you use the F word that we like use as a slur towards gay people, like people would have like let it slide. Yeah. And I feel like even with my parents who were like very progressive, and like all my extended family probably is like pretty progressive, still just in like the media and again like in the ether, the idea that like it's okay to make fun of gay people for being gay, you know, was like pretty strong. I remember one time though, I mean, I've never like used the F slur, but I remember when I was like 13 or 14, I was on the soccer bus with my team, and one of my coaches.
The soccer what?
The soccer bus. Like going to a soccer game on the bus.
Okay.
And one of my coaches who was really young, she was like 19 or 20. She just like graduated the year before. I used that word, and it was like really upsetting to me because I just was a really, really sensitive soul. And I just knew it wasn't right. And I like approached her about it afterwards, like after we got on the bus. And I remember like going up to her and I just started like crying. And she was, cause you know, you're like afraid, right? Cause I was like going to like set my soccer coach straight. I like didn't know what to do. And I started like, I was like crying, and she was like, oh no, what's wrong? And then I like all blubbery, like told her, and she was like, oh, do you have like a family member that's gay? And I was like, no, I just think it's really mean. And she was like really, you know, I think mostly felt bad that like I felt bad, and I have no idea. I remember like coming away from that feeling less scared than I went into it. Like she responded to me in whatever way I think I needed to be responded to. And I don't know if it like affected her or not, but I could tell that like she, by using that word, it was completely in passing and completely like when she said it, I don't think she had any, she wasn't actually like, oh, I'm saying this because I actually think that being gay is wrong or bad. It was just, again, like part of the language, just like, yeah.
Yeah. I think for me, looking back, I was pretty unaware, I think, at the time of Prop 8, and probably up until just a couple of years ago, I was pretty unaware of a lot of LGBT issues. And so I'm still kind of in this realm of maybe call it discovery and curiosity of other people's experiences and maybe some of the concerns that I've just been ignorant of and unaware of. I have a couple of thoughts, and I know we don't have time to get to all of them, so maybe focusing in on just this idea of...
We have as much time as we need.
Yeah.
I feel like if this goes for an hour, it goes for an hour.
Yeah. We'll
Okay.
record
Yeah,
another
that's fair.
episode another time.
So when we had Sky Sorensen on, who he identifies himself as same-sex attracted, who is in a mixed orientation marriage. So he's married to a woman as a gay man, and they have a family together, and they're active in the church. When we were on, we were talking a little bit about this, and I kind of posed the question, and almost in the attitude of, guess what I'm thinking, Sky? And I wish I would have been more clear in, these are some of my thoughts that I want to kind of put out here and we can discuss. And it was, I quoted a scripture in Matthew 23, verse 23, that says something along the lines of, you've omitted the weightier matters of the law. You pay your tithing on these things, but you neglect or you omit justice, mercy, and faithfulness. And so just using that pattern of, are there things that I have neglected while hyperfixating on things that maybe matter less? For example, like swear words. You know, I grew up in a family like that was very much not allowed. and looking, and I'm not like someone that would highly encourage swear words and like we should be sensitive to other people and the effect that we have on other people. But at the same time, is there maybe more value in emphasizing respect and kindness and openness and compassion towards other people, more so than like policing our specific words? So when it comes to just sexuality in general, is it a religious institution's position to identify that this is the one path to take, and if you don't fit this path, then you are outside of the worthiness standard or the grace of God, because you're not following this singular path? One other thought that connects as far as with politics, and maybe just an incongruity that I've observed in sacrament meeting, when caucus meetings come or election day come, there are announcements read over the pulpit that talk about, we encourage you to go to your caucus meeting, whatever the party is. The church doesn't sponsor or affiliate with any specific party, things along those lines, and just encouraging people to be active in the political system. Mm-hmm. But then there comes times like looking back at Prop 8 and hearing some of the details about that. It's like, does that really fit what we hear every year with caucus meeting and every other year with election day? I don't feel like it does. And so that's kind of interesting to me. So.
Yeah.
I have one last thought.
Go ahead.
This is something that one of my family members shared with me. So Psalm 23 is the chapter that the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. One of the lines in there, one of the phrases is paths of righteousness. And this family member of mine pointed out to me, it's not path of righteousness, it's plural, paths of righteousness. There's not only one singular path to God, to goodness, to righteousness. And oftentimes within political culture or religious culture, we almost limit to one option for what righteousness means. And as I've just considered this, I just wonder if this could apply with sexuality. I haven't maybe had any strong conclusions in my mind, but I've definitely felt when other people have expressed judgment towards me of I'm not on the right path, or I'm veering off of the covenant path or whatever other path we might define. And it's like, well, kind of like you were saying earlier, as far as integrity, it's like I'm trying to live according to my beliefs that might be different than yours, that leads me to do things differently than what you do. So I can't relate as far as LGBT being on a different path than what is the expected path within the LDS Church. But in certain ways, and probably most people experience it to some degree, of veering off in various ways of what maybe the family is defined as the path of righteousness for the family, or what the local congregation or the institutional authorities say the singular path of righteousness is. So anyway, I just wanted to throw that out and see how that feels for each of you, as far as, are there multiple paths that, I mean, righteousness is so subjective, but are there multiple paths that could be considered and be reasonably valued as a righteous thing?
Well, I have my opinion on that.
And I probably know your opinion on it. Maybe it's more for the audience to consider on that, but I'd love to hear your opinion.
Oh, my opinion on that is completely at odds with the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And so, it's like another thing that we run into where I think I agree with everything that you're saying. Mm-hmm. And you asked the question, is it the job of a religion to sort of set the boundaries around sexuality? And I think most people would say yes to some extent or another. I mean, I certainly would say it is within the purview of a religion to set boundaries around sexuality as far as things that are predatory, right? Like I would expect my church to teach against those things quite emphatically.
Yeah.
And I think most people would agree with that. And then a lot of people would say, of course, it's the job of a church, like more than anybody else, to set the rules around what people are allowed to do with themselves. So, and I don't know if I don't know. Yeah, I do. I mean, I think that religions are a reasonable institution to be doing that. I understand why they do it. I understand why people look to religion for that guidance. I understand that it's something people want guidance for and sometimes need guidance for. Just the LDS Church happens to have boundaries that I disagree with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I agree with that. Like this multiple paths thing, like being atheist now, like where does morality come from, and what is the purpose of life if there is one, and if there's an afterlife, like how does that kind of play into things? And so for me, like kind of my moral compass goes along the lines of respect other people, be kind, don't prey upon others in whatever way. And as long as other people are kind of doing the same thing, even if it's in maybe a different way than I see, I don't really have a problem with it. But to that extent, there are maybe the devil's in the details, kind of specifics that it's like, I want to do it that way, so. But yeah.
I think for me, as we're talking and looking back, I feel like my view of the LDS Church was that it was the only authority on morality and the only source of authority. And I guess as I've maybe studied more history, studied more, learned more about politics and religion and some of the debates happening, and realizing, some of these people that are non-religious are very moral people. And some of the people that I would consider very religious, I don't know if I could call moral people. And maybe some of that's judgmental and ignorant of me, but because I also have this belief that people generally are trying to do good. It's not an intentional thing to cause harm usually. So just to conclude this thought, I guess, I don't know if, I don't believe anymore that the LDS Church is the only authority on morality. And there have been times when speaking as authorities on morality have made mistakes. And some of them they've corrected. And so it's like, well, if it was this way at one point and this way later, one of those times it was wrong. And there could be some, and are some, even within my own perspective, that there are some that still need to be corrected as far as morality goes, and teach the people. Like we talk about the importance of teaching morality, and there are certain things we need to improve on as far as teaching morality to the people. To your point, that a religion has the influence to do so, and maybe that is an appropriate place for morality to be talked about.
One more thing, as far as things changing that you mentioned, one thing that was difficult during Prop 8 is a lot of people had signs that said marriage is between one man and one woman, which is really kind of rich, coming from
a church that practiced polygamy.
Polygamy, and still practices in a in the eternal sense, per our ordinances. Yeah, so that was kind of hard to swallow.
Something, if anyone's interested in learning more about the church's history with gay individuals and so forth, there's a really good resource from the podcast called Latter-Gay Stories, I believe. Yes. Latter-Gay Stories. And it's called On the Record, a chronology of LGBTQ messaging within the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. It's a 109-page PDF. Scroll here.
Wow.
But have you guys ever read it?
No.
Anyway, it's kind of got like quotes, good, bad, and ugly from church leaders and the entire history that we have of just messaging towards gay people, trans people, and so forth. So, I really enjoyed it. One thing that I find is really interesting at the end, on the very last page, it has like this blank page. I don't know if you can see that.
Mm-hmm.
And it says, an official apology. This space is reserved for an official apology from the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints for the damage that many of these teachings inflicted on the lives of LGBTQ plus individuals, their families, and friends. Some of these individuals are no longer here to receive that apology. So, great resource. We'll link it in the comments for anyone who wants to check it out. But
yeah. I think that's that.
That's that. A little bit of a shorter episode today.
Yeah.
Quick and dirty.
But I'm sure it won't be the only time we'll talk about these things, So please remember to like, subscribe, share with friends and family, and if you can donate, we appreciate it. So thanks for being here with us, and good luck bridge building. Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.